get everybody's attention. I'll wait for everybody to be quiet. I just have a few housekeeping things I'm going to go over first before we call the roll. I wrote them out so I wouldn't forget anything. Welcome to the Claremore City Council meeting. We welcome the public to attend our meetings. We'd love for people to attend more. It would be great. And sincerely appreciate your cooperation in being respectful and not disturbing or impeding the business that we need to address today. You are allowed to photograph or record this meeting according to the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. We are also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And the speakers who have signed up to speak will be broadcast as well. So those that aren't here will be able to hear what they have to say. We respectfully ask that everyone in attendance refrain from any conduct that creates or causes any type of disturbance. To ensure a respectful and orderly meeting, all attendees are asked to refrain from creating a disturbance, an interference, or disruption of the meeting. Attendees may sit in the public seating area, which it looks like everyone is, or you can stand in the back, either way. We kindly ask that you be mindful that standing in front of other attendees may obstruct their view of the counselors and any materials that are presented to the meeting. Also, walking around the room excessively in a way that draws attention to yourself can disrupt the meeting. In addition, continuing to argue with the council or staff after being instructed to stop disrupting the meeting will be considered further interference and will with the conduct of the meeting. Unwelcomed physical contact will not be tolerated, including the invasion of attendees' personal space by standing behind a person and recording over their shoulder. This also includes side conversations at a volume loud enough to prevent others from hearing the business being conducted. If the mayor requests attendees to be silent or to take their conversation to a different room, we appreciate your prompt compliance. Violations of these guidelines may result in removal or being trespassed from the meeting and Rogers State University campus. Thank you for being here and for your continued engagement as citizens of Claremore. Okay, I call to order the Claremore Cultural Development Authority meeting. Sarah, please call the roll.
Cottom.
Here.
Bellman.
Here.
Michael.
Present.
Callender.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Bruckerhoff.
Here.
Bowlby.
Here.
McSpadden.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
If you will stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Aaron Shaw from Cedar Point.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we pray tonight, I want to remind us of two passages of Scripture that guide how followers of Jesus should approach moments like this. First is Jeremiah 29, 5 through 7. It reminds us to seek peace and prosperity of the city where God has placed us. It tells us how to pray for it because when the city prospers, we prosper. And in 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 2, it urges us to pray for those in authority, for kings and all who are in leadership, so that we may live peacefully and quiet lives marked by dignity and godliness. No matter where we stand on this issue before us tonight, these scriptures call us to something higher. They call us to seek the good of our city and to pray for those entrusted with leadership. Let's pray. Father, we come before you tonight recognizing that you are sovereign over this city, this council, and every decision in every heart in this room. You have placed us in this community, and you have entrusted us with this city. Your word calls us to seek its peace, to work for its good, and to pray for its leaders. So that is what we do now. Lord, we thank you for the men and women who serve on this council. We thank you for our mayor, our city manager. Leadership is not easy. Public service carries weight, pressure, and scrutiny. And tonight we express gratitude for their willingness to serve the city. We ask you for wisdom, clear thinking, sound judgment, and courage to do what is right, humility to listen as well. and discernment to see beyond emotion and into what will truly bring long-term good to this community. Father, we also pray for this room. There are strong opinions here, deep convictions, real concerns. We ask for unity, even where there is disagreement. Guard our words, guard our tone. Let this meeting reflect dignity, respect, and self-control. Help us to remember that we are neighbors before we are opponents, that we share streets, schools, businesses, and futures. May this city prosper, not just economically, but morally and spiritually. And may peace guide this meeting. May wisdom shape every conversation. And may your purpose ultimately prevail. We place this meeting in your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Cottom,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
I just want to remind the council up here, we can't see each other like we normally can, but just remember to speak up because I'm the only one with the mic, unless you toss it down there to you guys. Just want to make sure the audience can hear us. Any items unforeseen?
None.
Current business, do we have a motion to accept the consent items as printed?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Second.
Motion adjourned is second. Call the roll.
Calendar,
Yes.
who made the second? Josh. Feldman,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
I call to order the Claremore Public Works Authority meeting. Sarah, please note the roll. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff.
Yes.
Any items unforeseen?
None.
Current business, do we have a motion to accept the consent items as printed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes. Motion adjourned. Second.
I have a motion to adjourn in second. Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Call to order the Claremore City Council meeting. Note the roll. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Bowlby,
Yes.
Feldman,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
McSpadden,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Any items unforeseen?
None.
Current business, do we have a motion to accept the consent items as printed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Cottom,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Ruckerhoff,
Yes.
Bowlby,
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Now, for what all of you came to hear about. That was our taking care of business stuff that needed to be done. Got to pay the bills. Item number 2, presentation on Claremore Data Center. Ms. Maggie Froman Knight and Beale Infrastructure.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. While you are familiar with our organization, we recognize that many might be engaging for the first time tonight. I'm Maggie Froman Knight. As a 6th-generation Rogers County resident, it is my honor to serve as the Executive Director of Claremore Economic Development. Next slide, please. Tonight, my responsibility is to walk you through our organization's role, the framework that is used for industrial park consideration, including the prospective data center. Claremore Industrial and Economic Development Authority was founded as a public trust in 1948. Often referenced as CEDAR or Claremore Economic Development, our board is governed, or our body is governed by a board of trustees comprised of local leaders. Our charge is to foster the growth of our community, its businesses, including the property held by our organization within Claremore Industrial Park. Growth can mean many different things to different people. Understandably, it brings a range of perspectives and emotions. Economic development is often misunderstood as only attracting businesses. In reality, our work is well beyond the industrial part and is primarily operational in nature. It includes business retention, business expansion, and strengthening the workforce and talent pipelines to ensure long-term stability of our employment base. Most residents have likely interacted with some aspect of our 80-year work history, a portion which is represented on the slide, even if they may not have realized it at the time. So how do we arrive at the consideration of a prospective data center? Prospective projects typically begin with either a request for proposal or a request for information or a direct lead. In this, multiple communities or states may be under consideration at the same time. During the initial assessment stage, the company and community exchange baseline information such as building size or height requirements, acreage, zoning, utility capacity, workforce needs, and general transportation access or taxing considerations. At this point, in that initial assessment review, both parties are determining whether a site merits any further review. Often, many projects end in that initial assessment review point. If the site advances, the company will then enter a more detailed evaluation phase. This can involve engineering analysis, virtual meetings, data requests, in-person visits, and a number of items. At the same time, the community would review its infrastructure capacity, land use compatibility, and any regulatory requirements. This stage often lasts not less than 6 months and can frankly go up to 24 months or more, even lasting years. As projects and prospective communities move through what we refer to as the site selection elimination funnel is shown, options are gradually narrowed through disqualifications. Early conversations often involve information gathering. During this stage, as findings are reviewed, the projects and its plans may change or get refined based on those findings from the analysis. The information is then brought forward when a proposal reaches a point that requires public action, so that the appropriate governing body and the community are reviewing a clearly defined version of the project available at that time, rather than early concepts which may still be under evaluation. While a project remains in due diligence, elements such as their conceptual site layout, a potential development phase, utility considerations may be shared to provide context such as will occur shortly. These materials reflect the best information currently available and remain subject to refinement as those analyses continue. Final site selection only occurs after the due diligence is complete, required approvals, including any public actions, are obtained, and a company has made a formal investment decision. Until that time, the project remains in evaluation. As we often say in economic development, a project is not complete until the doors are open and the facility is operating, as there are numerous variables which can influence whether a project ultimately moves forward. Claremore Industrial Park on the north end of our community has evolved through projects moving through the same site selection funnel process, which applies to the data center being discussed today. Industrial activity in this corridor dates back to the 1980s. Property acquisition by our organization as early as 2002 reflected our community's proactive decision to preserve and expand industrial employment opportunities for future generations. That strategy became materialized in 2005 with the arrival of AXH air coolers, Reading Truck, then Caseco, Blue Art Metal Specialties, and Pelco. So why this area? Following that 2005 industrial success, subsequent public action was taken to acquire the adjacent property within the same industrial corridor. The land sits next to existing industrial operations, with direct highway access and close proximity to utility connections, in order to maximize the infrastructure investments while also keeping any jobs that are realized by any company in the park accessible to potential employees. Since 2005, as a result of our organization's work alongside the private sector, nearly 2,700 jobs have been created within this industrial park. Rogers County's average manufacturing wage is just over $90,000 annually. When you add the additional 660 jobs announced in 2025, as a result of $99 million in expansions of existing manufacturers, we will quickly be approaching 4,000 new jobs created in the park. These career opportunities found here are the result of metal fabrication, advanced manufacturing company, energy-related industries, aviation and aerospace technologies, including work with SpaceX and Blue Origin, and as a result of previous, now closed, tax increment or TIF financing districts, Claremore is home to one of the largest heat exchanger companies in North America. Claremore is also home to the only research and development center in the world, operating with 3 closed-loop testing wells that average between 400 and 600 feet deep, circulating approximately 70,000 gallons per day of water in each of these. Also, the result of a TIF to support its electrical substation. Within this context, the prospective data center aligns with the long-established industrial zoning of this area. Like existing manufacturers and industrial research facilities, the prospective data center relies on engineered utility systems and infrastructure, making the industrial park the appropriate and intended location for this type of technology-driven operation. Importantly, compared to traditional industrial use, post-construction data centers typically generate fewer pickup truck, daily shipment deliveries, as well as day-to-day challenges, resulting in a level of less routine activity than a traditional industrial use. Even as Claremore continues to grow, our foundation of innovation and hard work, established more than a century ago, remains steady today. What has evolved over time are the types of career opportunities available here, which today are far broader and increasingly more technical compared to a generation ago. As a parent of a student who dreams of becoming either a data engineer or inventing something to go into space like Stuart Russo, I'm grateful that companies like MSC Manufacturing, Prior Aerospace, and potentially this data center, if it moves forward, offer our generations to come the opportunity for highly technical careers close to home that were not available a generation ago. As a community, it is our shared responsibility to evaluate projects through the established and consistent framework so decisions are made fairly and in accordance with the law. We appreciate the opportunity to briefly outline our long-term industrial park development efforts, which led to the consideration of this data center prospect. Earlier this year, our team posted an FAQ on our website specific to the industrial park and this potential project to provide additional context. With that, at this time, I will turn it over to the Beale infrastructure team to present details specific to their potential location.
I just want to ask a quick question. Can everybody hear? No. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
can just hand her.
Test, test. Better?
Slow down, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great, can you guys hear me okay? Lean forward a little bit. Great. Just want to start off and say thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. Thank you for your continued stewardship of the city. We appreciate the diligence you all and the city staff have brought to shape responsible growth in the city of Claremore. And we're excited to share a project that we believe represents a meaningful investment in the community and aligns with the city's goals for smart and sustainable development. So I'll start out. I'm Lauren Harvey. I'm the development director here at Beale Infrastructure, and I oversee all of our development projects in Northeast Oklahoma and a couple of other states as well. But very happy to be here. I've spent a lot of time in this area and have learned a lot about the city and work closely with city staff. And we're very excited to bring this project to you all and to the community, gather feedback and share more information. Intelligence.
Hi, I'm Mike DePaula. I'm the Director of Economic Development of Beale Infrastructure.
Great. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview of what we'll go through today. So I'll do a very quick intro on Beale, and then an overview of the data center industry for those who are not familiar, and kind of highlight what we're building here. Site-specific information, the project benefits, and then timeline and next steps. And then we'll open up to public comment. So Beale Infrastructure, we are a data center developer. We exclusively develop data centers with really a focus on community investment and economic growth. So when we are looking for where to develop, we first look at where would be a good partnership, where is a feasible place to develop based off of resources and utilities, and that really falls into the sustainability piece here, resource perspective, but then also is this a sustainable place to grow? Does it meet the community's needs, and does it align with the goals of that city? And then what does this mean for community investment? And then the next piece is health and safety. That is always a priority for us, and something we evaluate along the way as well. So we'll start with what is a data center. There are different types of data centers out there, but what we're building here is really the backbone of the internet. What we do every single day, whether that's swiping our credit cards, pulling up government records, your hospital records, small businesses really rely on these types of facilities. They may be owned by or operated by some of the larger tech companies, but they house all of the QuickBooks and informations and credit cards and everything that we use to operate our small and local businesses. Simple things like our weather, education, and then of course our social media. I think sometimes we forget that when we're on our phones, whether we're using a Facebook app or maybe our banking app, that information doesn't actually belong always on your phone. It is a window into a data center where it is processed and transmitted. And so we rely on these every day sort of as a means of what we call infrastructure. So the site, as Maggie mentioned, is located in the Claremore Industrial Park. That was a key piece for us, being able to partner with the city and their desires to grow an industrial park and continue to fill out the parcels in that facility there. It is zoned industrial park today, so many things can be built there, including a data center fits directly into that zoning. It's probably one of the lower end uses in terms of intensity that could be built there. Thank you. And so what are we building? So we are building data center and structures that support those data centers, such as office space, electrical substations, both private and public, security and maintenance, stormwater, which is very big, and I'll touch on that a couple times in this presentation, and then simple things as landscaping. And then important, what are we not building? This site will not include any energy generation, so there will not be any peakers or any sort of energy generation on this site. We are going to be pulling energy from the grid. There will not be any heavy manufacturing or any warehouse or distribution. So this project is strictly focused on mission critical digital infrastructure. And we hope that use aligns well with some of the other heavy manufacturing that's being developed in that area as well. So diversity of jobs, but also diversity of traffic patterns. It's a lighter use, a little lighter traffic, where we have some other heavier, more job intensive uses that will be surrounding us. Next slide, please. And can everyone hear me okay? Great. So here is our current site layout. This is a multi-phase project, so this might change a little bit over time, but want to go through the major highlights. So all located within the industrial park. Our site entrance will be through the industrial park. There is an emergency access off to the east there, but again, that is only for emergencies. You have to have a second means of egress. The project will have minimum 300-foot setbacks from residential on the property line. Right now, the code is about 10 feet. I think it is 10 feet for setbacks in this area. We want to go above and beyond that and respect our residential neighbors on some sides of the project. We'll also be including heavy vegetation. There's a lot of existing vegetation that's there today that can remain. Sound, the project will be operating at 55 dBA. Controlled lighting, want to share here that this is not going to be a heavily lit facility. It will basically be lit in the evenings for safety. It does run 3 shifts, but that's all downcast lighting for pathways and for safe parking lots, things like that. It's not meant to be heavily lit or broadcasted. Stormwater management. All the stormwater will be managed on site through detention ponds. So when those will run dry when it's not raining, and then when it is raining, they will then drain into a detention pond. And all be managed on site and then into public sewer. And then I think I mentioned this before, but we'll aim to keep and maintain and then hopefully increase natural barriers along the perimeters of the site. Power and water are 2 very big factors, both for us, but also for the community. Resources are a top priority for us. So water service, this facility will be air-cooled, so the average daily use is going to be somewhere between 15,000 to 20,000 gallons per day. That is going to be domestic water and landscaping. We have to do some improvements for pressure for fryer flows, but again, this is no more than 2 to 3 small restaurants. This is your toilets, sinks, and irrigation. Grid reliability, so we are building a substation on site that will then be with the city of Claremore and GRDA. It is going to be a publicly owned substation. Beale, though, is paying 100% for that substation and any of those upgrades. We work very closely with the city of Claremore to develop a plan that doesn't put any cost onto ratepayers. So we are paying fully for all of our own infrastructure. And the same thing goes for water. So any upgrades that are directly needed by the project and are created by the project, we will pay for 100%. Environmental oversight. So this project is going to go through a permitting process. It is entitled by right, but we still have many, many steps to go through before we can go ahead and break ground. There are federal standards, so we have the Clean Water and Clean Air Act. We have to go through permitting for those. We'll be working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers if there are any impacts to waterways, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife to monitor any sensitive species that are on the site. On the state level, we work with the Department of Environmental Quality for stormwater and our SWIP, which is stormwater management during construction, air quality permits, and water discharge compliance. We are an industrial customer. And then local compliance. So at the local level, we work very closely with the city of Claremore once we finish our diligence phase of the project and move into design. All of those plans will be submitted to the city. They will go through a diligent review process with all of their departments to evaluate, does this meet the zoning codes, does this meet the buildings codes, safety and all of those things before we can receive a permit. And then those things will be continuously checked, monitored, and inspected through our construction phase. And then, sorry, one more piece we wanted to share, more on the environmental sustainability piece. So Beale is working closely with the Oklahoma Conservation Commission on a Renew cost share program. This is new. So basically this program offers technical support and financial assistance to landowners who are interested in restoring and creating wetlands on their property. Wetlands are crucial to sustainability. They help manage stormwater, create ecological environments, and help save water long term. So we will be making financial contributions to this program and encourage folks to check it out. So the next piece here is sort of project benefits and impacts. So data center related careers, I think of them a lot in 3 buckets. So the first is construction. We anticipate 400 to peak of 800 construction jobs annually on a multi-year construction project. These jobs are long-term. Someone can join this site as an apprentice and leave a journeyman. So these are hugely important jobs. We don't think of them as temporary. Keeping our construction industry healthy and building is very important. Then we have the technology jobs. These are the more broadcasted jobs that you hear about for data centers, which is sometimes a limited amount because these are who are hired directly by the operator, which we anticipate between 35 to 70 jobs pretty conservatively. And then the last piece is the campus operation jobs that then support the technology jobs, but also support the campus. So that will be through third-party subcontractors. They are probably 3 to 1 jobs for every technology job for the subcontractors. That's security, HVAC technicians, electrical technicians, maintenance, custodial, etc. And then I'll pass it off to Mike to talk about community programs.
Hey everyone. Beale is a long-term landowner on this project, so we don't just build it and then get rid of it. We stay for the life of the project, which is why we've already started working with Northeast Tech on building out career technical programs for data center specific. Really working on some cool, impactful, and innovative educational programming to create meaningful pathways towards students or people who are retraining can obtain and get certifications for these jobs inside of a data center. We're also in conversations to support K-12 STEAM. And on top of that, one of the things that's really cool is everything, we know there's a ton of local contractors here, local vendors, local businesses that may not have access to these large-scale construction projects typically. We try to do vendor open houses where local providers who typically aren't in the bid process can get access and discuss with general contracting and subcontractors on how to provide services and gain access to these huge data center construction projects. So the impact is not just a national construction firm. The impact is felt a little lower down the local level. And we are where we are today. Oh, sorry. Where we are today, we're in diligence and planning. We'll go through permitting through the summer and start phase 1 construction in the summer, assuming everything moves on schedule. Assuming a phase 1 completion in summer of 2028 and then phase 2 shortly after that. And there's our contact information if you have questions.
We open for questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay, now we'll be open for call to the public. We'll go over kind of the guidelines. This is what we do at every council meeting. You can't hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. We're going to open up for call to the public. And we'll be doing this in the format that we do at every council meeting, so this isn't any exception. The city attorney will actually go over the guidelines and rules of how we do this. I would love to see this go smoothly. This isn't I don't even know how to compare it to anything, but I've been to other meetings where people got rowdy, and that's really not what this is about. This is about sharing your feelings and your input pro or con. So I'll let Adam go over the rules for you.
Thank you all for being here. When we get started on public comment, you'll see, is this mic right up here where they'll go?
Hold that mic. Just eat that mic. Eat it.
Is this better? Okay. Thank you all. This is a work in progress. So if you all will come up to this mic right here in the middle row when it's your turn for public comment. As in all of our meetings, public comment per person is limited to 3 minutes. It can only be about the item on the agenda tonight, the data center. Under the Open Meeting Act, when you share your comments, the council cannot respond to those comments under the Open Meeting Act. What it can do is it can hear your comments and take those into consideration for further evaluation. But I want you all to understand that if you phrase your comments in the form of a question, you're not going to get an answer from the council. Also, please be mindful of the fact that we have many people that have signed up to comment tonight. Even at 3 minutes per person, if we've got 30, 40, 50 people that sign up to comment, do the math, we could be here for quite a while. So please be cognizant of that. If you have something to say that 2 or 3 people before you have already said, take that into account. With that, thank you all for being here, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
And our city clerk will call out the people in the order, probably that they were received. I don't know how that works, part. So when they call your name, she'll probably call your name a couple of times. If you have signed up and you decided that your questions have been answered by the presentation, you could just say, I'm out, or I don't need to be up there. That'll help us move along a little faster if that's the case. So Sarah?
The first one is Anne Marie Beer.
Very close to the microphone. It will sound louder to you as you're closer to the speakers. So just keep the microphone.
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Long, and members of the City Council and the community for coming to this event. Upon review of planning documents from the Southwest Power Pole, Beale Infrastructure Project Clydesdale in Tulsa County has a direct affiliation with at least 2 multi-thousand-acre solar power plants and 4 battery energy storage systems that will likely be paid for by the ratepayers across this region. These projects are the courtesy of our good friends at PSO and GRDA. With at least 1 battery storage project in Sperry included in PSO's request for a $1.2 billion rate hike. Beale's history here and in other parts of our country is to shift the cost of infrastructure upgrades onto the backs of the ratepayers directly or indirectly. So to address Beale, I'd like to ask, is this part of the reason why you or GRDA want to install battery storage with the sole purpose of acting as a synthetic utility? To clarify, is your intent to purchase energy at reduced or negative rates and then turn around and sell it back to the grid at higher rates? So, we're on the same page. This is a process called price arbitrage. And I struggle with this idea that ratepayers are paying for you to manipulate and profit from the cost of electricity at the detriment of this community. And this data is being pulled from the United States Energy Information Administration. They've got a lot of it. So this sounds like a racketeering project, does it not? Or I have those mappings from
Okay, hang on just 1 second. That's what we don't want to have. We're not going to clap or boo or hoop hurrah, or we're letting people speak, whether they're pro or con. Right, and if that continues, the ones that are doing that will have to ask them to leave. So just let's be respectful of every speaker, no matter what they're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Long. I have for you, for your convenience, to read at your leisure, the U.S. Energy Information Administration with regards to that. In addition, I have mappings from the SPP and a fact sheet from the United States Energy, this right here. So I would like this information to be addressed and acknowledged and put on the record that this has been part of this discussion. Thank you.
Once again, no clapping. I don't want to have people leave. So literally, it's not clapping whether they're for or against either side. This is supposed to be neutral. People can get up and speak what they want to speak. Just leave it at that. I appreciate that.
John Whitefield of Claremore.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me talk tonight.
Eat the microphone.
I hope that my records are accurate. I did my research off the internet. Claremore builds as many of these data centers in northeast Oklahoma as they can before state regulations or legislation catches up with them and slows them down, and before communities realize the long-lasting impact yet to be seen. Our lake is a great resource to our community, economy, and socially. It needs protected. I read they want to use 1.5 million gallons a day to cool this site. What if we have an Oklahoma drought? Are we going to be subjected to water restrictions so Beale can have these waters first? Are we going to see Claremore lake level shrink at times? And let's talk about the noise. I read that there are 65 decibels at the boundaries. I get 65 decibels at my front porch when the train passes by on 4150 road. And what frequency are these decibels going to be emitted at? They claim to be compliant with industrial noise limits, but here's the problem. A lot of noise ordinances were never ever meant for the continuous low frequency noise that never stops, 24/7, 365 days a year. The ordinance were established before data centers even existed. Noise will affect the homeowner's peace, and wildlife and birds that are present this time will probably move on and never return. We are the residents, the taxpayers, and the voters. What about our property values? A lot of folks, probably like my wife and I, came to Claremore for what it is and what it isn't. City leaders, please don't sell us out. State Senate Bill 1488, proposed last month, is trying to create a moratorium for 3 years on new data centers to study the issues of environmental impact, trends in utility costs, and property values of properties within 3 miles of a data center. The industrial park, 30-some jobs, big deal. Another manufactured outfit in that area could be used to employ hundreds and hundreds of people in a lot less space, helping northeast Oklahoma. So city leaders, are we still able to pivot and save our lake, save our resources and our industrial park? This will always be a better deal for Beale than it will be for the citizens of Claremore. Thank you for your time.
Sharon K. Eggleston of Claremore.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk fast. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste mine. I was raised here. I went to school here. Take the glasses off so I can read. Worked here. I've had this community. I held it in sacred awe. You know what sacred awe is? Sacred awe is some person, place, or thing that you cherish so much. Well, I've been raped. The people in this community are about to be raped. being raped of our freedom, our rights, our sacred laws that we have in this town, and most of all, public trust. I'm going to give you some places real quick. And I don't know if anything went on with them to get to where we are now, but maybe. The Claremore Building Infrastructure, Code Enforcement, Energy Department, Electricity Department, the Finance and Purchasing, Planning and Zoning, Public Works, Public Infrastructure, Water and Sewer, the County Clerk, the Industrial Development, Planning Commission, Treasurer, the Corporation Commission, the Oklahoma Tax Commission, the Secretary of State, the Mayor, the City Council, City Manager, and the GDRA, and the Claremore Industrial Authority. When was this property bought? If I go down to the courthouse, what will it say? What about the permits to build on it? Where, when and where did the actions and all this discussion start taking on? Who are the people on the boards? Can we build it's going to be really, really good, so can we build a golden giant monument and put all the names on all these boards and all these committees? So from now on, people will know who to give credit to on this. Once again, we are being raped, the citizens of Claremore, young and old, and for years to come. Why can't these things, people be held liable if there's going to be ramifications? Houston, we have a problem. And in that, they said that nothing is impossible. It is not impossible right now to stop this. I beg you. Put it on a pause. Stop it for 2 years and study it all over the United States and open-mindedly look at all the statistics and let's make a list of what's good about it, what's bad about it, and then bring it before the people and let us vote and give back because you're using up other people's time. And then let us vote on it and give us back that sacred trust and that sacred awe that many of us have in this community. Thank you.
Tristan Lowers of Claremore or Lowry? Tristan Lowry.
I'm Tristan. It's fine. I'll just lean. First, I just want to encourage everybody to don't clap or be loud or anything because it does distract whoever's talking, and then also for people hearing, and then it's not going to serve anybody's purpose if you don't get to be heard just because you were clapping or being disrupted. So I do have some concerns, and some of them were kind of alleviated tonight looking at some of the things, but I did want to just kind of bring up a couple of things, and then I will email the City Council that way because I do have some questions, and I would like just some answers back from them, but I understand you can't answer here. So our neighbors in Coweta voted 4-1 to reject Beale Infrastructure's Project Atlas because of concerns regarding transparency and long-term impacts. And so my questions are going to be specifically for Cotton and Felon, since I'm in Ward 1. Would be what specific independent due diligence is Claremore conducting to ensure that we have the same fundamental, that we address the same fundamental concerns that our neighbors in Coweta did regarding the power and water, and then also regarding the cooling system. I really like the water usage. I saw some stuff that looked like the water usage was really, really high, and this is a lot lower than that, so that's really good. Because in Oklahoma, our temperatures get really hot, and the air-cooled system, a lot of the times they require water-assisted cooling, and I'm going to ask that the city would, if it ends up needing to have water-assisted cooling, would they be able to require a zero liquid discharge agreement, and that would literally and legally guarantee that no industrial wastewater can get back into our water table or into our lake. And then also, what research has the city conducted? And then I saw that they had pointed into some of the government agencies that Beale is looking into, but what are we looking into to assess the impact of this facility's heat, the rejection and the runoff to local wildlife, both on a micro and macro scales? And then finally, we must protect our locals from the hidden costs of some of these things. The GRDA is already kind of raising their rates, and so is there something, and I understand that the state capital has
22992. It was filed at the Capitol, and it prevents them from basically not paying for anything. Like now they are able to pay for their own structures and their own things and their own infrastructure, which is great. And I saw that they were doing that. However, just because they are increasing on the load for the GRTA, that's going to cause their rates overall to increase. So is there anything of a protection clause for us to ensure that it's not passed on to our residents, for the cost that they're specifically drawing on? And then finally, I would just like to say, we deserve to grow. I'm not against data centers at all. There's definitely ways to be going down. Look at fire. There's other good examples of it being done. I'm not necessarily against them in general, but we do need to have protections for our people and for our taxpayers and stuff. So thank you very much.
Kelsey Royce of Tulsa.
Pick up that microphone.
Okay, that feels a little bit better.
Just hold it very close.
Okay, is that better? Yes. Okay. Good evening, counselors, Mayor Long, Mr. Fury. My name is Kelsey Royce, and I think we need to talk about non-disclosure agreements, here and after NDAs. Mr. Fury, almost 2 years ago to the day, on February 16th, 2024, you signed an NDA with IPI Partners, which is now Beale Infrastructure. Did you have anyone from legal review that document prior to signing it? And did anyone from the city council sign an NDA or confidentiality agreement with Beale Infrastructure? If you did you have anyone from legal review that document prior to signing it? If so, who was it? And in your answers, please keep in mind that a representative from an Oklahoma District Attorney's Office has said that these documents presented by Beale are not compliant with the law, and that any signature from a government official would be legally problematic. Do you all feel comfortable announcing to the public that you signed these documents with that type of statement from law enforcement? Again, I'll ask, did anyone from City Council sign these documents? If so, when? And are you confident in saying it was done in accordance with the law?
Question?
Chris Thomas of Claremore.
Hello, my name is Chris Thomas. I'm 20 years old and I'm a student here at RSU right now. I grew up here, and I love Claremore and I love living here. I'm gonna say a quick quote from the Lorax, which is, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And I care a whole awful lot about this town. I'd like to live here my whole life for like 60 more years, hopefully. So I want to read something from the Harvard Business Review about data centers. It says they concur megawatts of hours of electricity and emit hundreds of tons of carbon into the air. If my future here is polluted, I might have to leave. I don't want to leave this town, but I'm not interested in living somewhere where I can get cancer or whatever else might be released into the air or water. One of the reasons I love it here is because of the natural resources that are available. We have a beautiful nature reserve here at RSU. We have a beautiful lake. Like, I'm an art student, and a lot of my friends are moving to Tulsa to be in the arts there. But I would like to be able to continue living here in Claremore. And I just want to quote the Lorax one more time before I go. The Lorax says something to the one slur, which is, which way does a tree fall? A tree falls the way it leans. Be careful which way you lean.
Dean Sharp of Claremore.
Somebody hold the soap for me. Thank you, city council members, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I come as a former business person in industry where TIFs were used. Promises were made by companies that they would hire X number of employees, that they would perform certain duties. And what I discovered in my role, going out and meeting with politicians and city councils like this, water companies, state governments, etc., that many times the companies did not hold true to their commitments. TIFs are known to be things that have not been productive through the years. Audits have been done, several across the country in several states. And they have found that well over 65% have been failures to produce the income, the tax revenue that was necessary to support the tax incremental financing for the project. I think it's time for us to do some serious looking at the data. I worked in engineering for 35 years. I live by data sheets, spreadsheets, and Excel. It needs to be looked at cautiously because you have voters here, you have citizens here who are taxpayers, that if the TIFs do not produce, the revenue that must be generated falls back on them in tax increases over the years. Up to 25 years in length of time, usually 5 years at a time. So, we have to look at this. I know that school districts are excited about it because promises are made that they're going to receive great revenue. The problem is the TIFs don't produce like this. The majority of them have failed miserably and left behind disasters. So, what I'm asking is that we take the time to think about what we're doing. I have close friends across the country. I'm a new person to Oklahoma. Moved here from Missouri, formerly Kansas, where all the TIFs have been there, and also I was born in California. And none of us want to repeat the things that are going on there. I think it's time for us to stop strapping taxpayers with lost revenue from projects that we haven't planned well. Lest we say that we're geniuses and we have everything controlled. I don't trust that. Politicians tend to look at us and tell us what we think we want to know.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Right.
Teresa Luce of Claremore.
Like many people here, I've been trying to understand what Project Mustang actually means to my community. I've lived in Claremore for at least 35 years, and I didn't come into this looking for a scandal. I came looking for clarity. And what I've found raises serious, unresolved questions that city leadership needs to answer. Why did the city provide its bank routing account number to a private developer before this project was approved? Why were funds already being deposited into city accounts tied to this project before the public had any meaningful chance to weigh in? And why did the city release through open records not only every utility customer's information, but also the city's own Bank First routing numbers? In the real world, organizations are sued for this type of failed responsibility. Even if no money is stolen, exposing banking information and utility account numbers are considered a major data breach because it creates real financial and security risk. So my question is simple. What rules are we operating under here in Claremore that don't apply anywhere else? The same city that released its own live banking credentials to a private developer and then to the public is now asking us to trust it, to oversee a massive data center that could handle sensitive personal, financial, and even medical and other types of potentially compromising information. That's not a hypothetical concern, that is an absolute failure. If the city cannot properly classify, redact, or protect its own banking information, it cannot be trusted to protect residents' utility records, addresses, billing data, or anything stored in a data facility tied to this project. Admittedly, I don't know how big a problem it is for a city to leak out an entire municipality's privileged account information regarding their own electricity usage. So I utilized a data center to formulate an answer to that very question, and the result was astounding. It says this can lead to severe legal to reputational damage to the city. That's bad. And based on what their own records show, they have not. Trust is earned, and right now your own paperwork proves it has not been earned. So what will you do to keep our information safe? Yeah.
Debbie Casada of Claremore.
My name is Debbie Casada. I live on Oakland Drive, which is a small community of about 40 homes out in the country. We each have about 3 acres of land. It's an established neighborhood. It's been there for 25 years. And watching all of that presentation by y'all, I didn't see anywhere in there that you ever considered what you will be doing to our lives by building this data center in our backyards. I am a widow. I lost my son in Iraq. I moved here for quiet, for peace, for the wildlife. You all are going to destroy every bit of that, not to mention my property values. So when I'm much older than I am now, I won't even be able to sell my house to take care. In Romans it says, there is no authority except from God, and the authority that exists is appointed by God. That means that not only do you have to account to your citizens, but you must also answer to God because He gave you this authority, He gave you this position, and He will same mighty God will go before us and destroy your plans. And I do this in the name of Jesus Christ and all for the glory of God.
Peyton Pepin. Peyton Pepin of Claremore.
Hello, how are you? Most of you probably know who I am. I don't think I've seen this many Democrats and Republicans in one room coming together to find a common goal. I think I know what that goal is. So, I'm just going to kind of try to make this short and sweet. I have some serious concerns about Beale infrastructure and who they are, things like that. They've been around about 5 years. I think they were founded in 2020. They're owned by another company, I believe it's called Blue Owl, which has currently several investigations into them for securities fraud. So that kind of means that they misrepresented what their company was worth, and they're being investigated now for basically theft, kind of like Enron, Williams Communications. My background was in construction management, and I was also a commodities trader for about 4 years. So when I look at Beale and say, here's this company out here that's been around 5 years, and we're going to give them millions and billions of tax dollars and funds and all this to build this data center, I kind of look at this like the canoe thing over there in Pryor. We did that, and I was one of the guys that spoke out against that. And people said, oh, you're against economic development. No, I'm just against pump and dump schemes. And so I kind of look at this thing and I say, I look at SanDisk stock, which makes microchips, same thing with Micron, WDC. Those stocks are up 2,000% over a year. These companies went from, 32 cents a share to $725 a share in 1 year. So I look at this and go, this doesn't look kind of legitimate. This looks like some kind of Wolf of Wall Street thing. It looks like a con. And with a company that really doesn't have a background, if you were talking about IBM or Google, the other thing that concerns me is I've built a lot of big buildings. I did the Walmart Distribution Center for Plinko, which is a 1 million square foot plus building. I've done other buildings too. And it's kind of like Google. 20 years ago, Google was being built. And Google couldn't figure out how to do an air-cooled system, right? And all of their engineers and all of their people couldn't figure out how to do that. But somehow Beale has figured out how to do an air-cooled system. And to this day, Google still can't figure it out. And I just look at that and go, I don't know how that's really going to work feasibly. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my opinion. The other thing I really worry about is, I don't like the fact that we governed in secret. We didn't tell anybody about this, and we kept it kind of on the down low. And I kind of believe that I think everyone can agree governing in secret is not really a cool thing to do. If it was a great deal for Claremore, I think we would have said something. You would have been the proponent saying, this is great for the town. That's kind of where I'm at.
Chuck Rowland of Broken Arrow.
I'm Chuck Rowland from Broken Arrow. I've been to several of these meetings where the data centers going in, and I've seen this pattern happen time and time again. One of the things I've noticed is a lack of constitutional clarity, and there are many empathetic pleas that have been in this room from this side to that side that typical, I've watched this observed, is they end up on deaf ears. And so I wanted to read the Constitution, not only to those in front of me, but to the people behind me. Article 2, Section 1 says all political power is inherent in the people. And government is instituted for their protection, security, and benefit. That's their role. Their role is not to build the city. Their role is government is instituted for our protection, security, and benefit. So when logic falls on deaf ears, people will get up here and say, we've lived on the land for this many years, and we've done this, and it's noisy and we're worried about pollution. It all falls, it has fallen in the meetings I've been to on deaf ears. Meanwhile, they take away our benefits, our property values. And in those meetings, they just didn't care. In terms of the Constitution, we saluted that flag to the republic for which it stands. Republic is two words, res publica. It means a thing in the open. And so when you have these non-disclosure agreements, and as the speaker before me just mentioned, these things are not out in the open. Yet we're sworn to a republic. They've already given you rights to clap in the meeting. When they start the meeting, they put you in a box and they tell you how you're going to behave, which is rules they've made that are outside your constitutional standing. So what I want to say to the people behind me is zero of what you say here is effective. It feels good, it's a great mic drop. The real thing to do is to send notice to your elected officials, not only to these people up front, but to the county commissioner, the governor, the attorney general, your legislators, until they feel the heat of these notices. Notices have legal standing. You send them a notice, and it's on certified mail, and you get a receipt for that. That's when they start feeling heat. In the meetings I've been to, they just can't wait till 9 o'clock to be done with this thing. I don't know that that's their hearts. It's a pattern that I've seen happen. But until they feel the heat notices of the above government putting shining light on what's happening here, they're in maladministration. They may or may not know it, but like there's no effect unless we send notices. Thank you, sir.
Braden Rowland of Broken Arrow.
Sets Mike. Okay, so I just want to know. So my dad, we talked about a republic. So our Constitution that we wrote in Oklahoma in 1907 secures a Republican form of government. It does not secure any other form of government. So when you, city councilmen, and city council sign non-disclosure agreements, you guys are admitting to changing the form of government. Understand that? Yes? Adam, am I right?
I'm not here to answer questions.
Okay, so this is true. They are attempting to change the form of government. What needs to happen, you guys have in Article 17 in our Oklahoma Constitution, go read this. Article 17 is going to secure that we are organized as a body politic and corporate, which means every decision for commerce has to go through the people. This is not the way that is constitutionally prescribed. Now, I know this is going to be a lot of statute and blah, 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 and a lot of case law and rules. But the Constitution in Article 1, Section 1 is going to say that the Oklahoma Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So who's in authority here? This is where we've been negligent for like a century. So the Bar Association has come in and started to make rules about how things go. But they can't do this because the people, like my dad said, Article 2, Section 1, all political powers inherent in the people. We've got to stop messing around and going, oh, all this stuff is terrible and things are bad and I don't like this and I don't like what we should do. It's fine. Like the water's fine. All of your arguments are valid. But like you said, they're not going to hold any weight. You've got to send certified notice to say, hey, I'm one of the people that's observed in Oklahoma to say, I don't want this commerce. I don't want this in my property. You guys need to run Beale out of town. This is plain and simple. So if you don't do that, the Supreme Court ruled in 2024 in Trump versus United States that if you guys start to do things that are outside of your public capacity, and things that the so that the people have said that
Sir, your time is up. Thank you very much.
You'll be getting notice soon.
Wayne Brown of Claremore.
Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Lynn Brown. I'm actually running for Rogers County Commissioner District 1, but how we just saw Mr. Fury act proves that he does not care about any one of you. He doesn't care about your feelings. He doesn't care about what you think. He doesn't care that you don't want this data center in your backyard. He doesn't care. He never has cared. All they care about is a paycheck. So what I'm going to ask you, Mr. Fury, will the City Council pass an $800 million surety bond to protect the Rogers County taxpayer, to protect the Claremore taxpayer? Will you guys, I know you guys can't answer that, I'll be emailing you, but will you pass an $800 million surety bond so when Beale screws up and actually raises our taxes, raises our utility rates, or they damage our water, they have to pay all of us $38,000, right? So when I would like that to be noted. I'll email you guys and ask you that question, but that is something that I think can be taken into consideration as passing that $800 million surety bond to protect these taxpayers. Another thing is we know Mr. Fury signed an NDA. An NDA, if it doesn't break the Open Records Act, it breaks the spirit of the Open Records Act. So we need to get rid of signing NDAs. I made a promise that while I'm running, I'm never going to sign an NDA. Beale Infrastructure is not going to make me sign an NDA, no corporation is. But these people have all signed NDAs. They're going to lie to you and say that they haven't. They won't tell you to your face that they have not signed an NDA. We already know that John Fury has signed an NDA, meaning all of them have also signed an NDA. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to talk about what goes on behind the scenes. So my question, I guess I just want to know how many of you have signed an NDA? Just John Fury? Because we found out about all this on Facebook, right? This was supposed to be some grand project. This was supposed to be so great for Claremore, but we found out from Ron Durbin on Facebook, right? That's where everyone found out. Everyone, John Fury got exposed by Ron Durbin on Facebook. So my question is if this is so great for Claremore, why did we find out on Facebook, John Fury? Why? You know why? Okay, you're not going to answer, that's fine, I'll be emailing you. But you can continue to smirk at Claremore residents, it just proves that you don't care about us, you don't care about our opinions, and that'll be duly noted, even though we can't vote you out. We'll vote in city councilors who will get rid of you, I promise. These people remember this stuff. So, thank you guys.
Kelly Vogelman of Claremore.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. I'm clear? Good. My name's Kelly Vogelman. I'm going to talk to you about dirt tonight. This is my community, so I'm going to talk about something else. Because it breaks my heart to see all the lies that are being told tonight. I'm going to set this down for a minute. Give me 1 second. I'll educate you guys on dirt some other time. So, my house is 1 mile as crow flies from this proposed project data center. My education is environmental conservation. I'm the founder of Rogers County OK Land Heritage. I started a petition last December banning AI data centers in all of Rogers County, because I love this county, and I thought when I made that petition, never in my home. January 1st, guess what? I was wrong. I had to abandon my petition because data center developers are smart with their language. The second that they come across any kind of opposition in language, even in the House and the Senate, they change their language. And that's what they have done with my petition. The second that happened, they changed it to say it's not AI. They don't know what data they have. They won't tell you. But it's not AI. Since then, I feel like I've gotten a PhD in data centers. I've also, unfortunately, started to get a PhD in legal. These are hardworking people of our community who have built this town, and they worked hard
Brooks Dow of Claremore.
All right, test, y'all hear me okay? Well, appreciate y'all's time. Just want to bring up a couple of points for the council's consideration. Got a little bit of background in infrastructure, energy, etc. So beyond what's been discussed today, a couple of things just to consider in relation to Beale, what they presented. My concern as far as the city of Claremore would be what would be the opportunity cost of the electricity given to the data center that could otherwise be used for economic development broadly. We know that there's new projects upcoming at the Inola. I think there's some aluminum plant, some other growth going on nearby in the area. So we know that there's going to be more housing, more businesses that are needed, and so my concern would be, depending on the contractual agreements per megawatt hour, et cetera, with GRDA or with the city of Claremore, is there excess power that's being provided to the data center that could be used to obviously power homes, businesses, et cetera. Obviously, this is on the north side of the city near the park, so maybe it's fine, but a little bit of a concern there. The other factor too is I'm not really sure in terms of the data center itself, is this being used for cloud services? Is this being used for AI machine learning? We all know that there's a possibility that's being talked about on Wall Street, et cetera, of an AI bubble. That's something that I have concerns about. AI is pretty amazing stuff, but there's also other concerns there, I think, too. So depending on the underlying market fundamentals, in terms of the cost benefit going into this deal, I don't know. Obviously, the FAQ says that there's no tax abatement being considered now. Obviously, there could be in the future, so my concern would be, what are the fundamental assumptions about the long-term viability and use for the data center, and how does that relate to, again, the cost benefit of this? Because the last thing I would want is 5 years from now, maybe there's a huge decline in the use of data centers, this thing goes belly up, and then we're all up with the stranded cost. Or it could go great, we just don't know. The other factor, too, that will bring to the council's attention is data center loads are usually non-interruptible, meaning that they need 24/7 electricity. Depending on the effect on the grid, my concern would be, is there a major storm or any other event on the grid that affects the voltage, i.e. people can lose power. We had Winter Storm Fury back in 2021. That was a pretty big effect on the system, on the grid. How is the data center affecting the grid, and is there a possibility that there could be a curtailment clause given so that if the system needs to curtail load to the data center to protect electricity for residents, for businesses, that might be something that you all consider if this thing ever ends up moving forward. So again, just some technical considerations just as part of this whole deal in addition to everything else that's been discussed. So food for thought.
Jeanette Haynes from Claremore.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeanette Haynes, and I went to graduate from Claremore High School and went to Sequoia, and my family's been here since I was in Rogers County or in Claremore because of Cherokee removal. And so I came here tonight. I sent my two representatives 4 pages of questions, and I came here this evening hoping to get some information, and I didn't. We have conflicts between the Beale website and Claremore. First, there's no water. Then we hear that there's 20,000, and then we hear that there's 1.5 billion. How many phases are there going to be? That hasn't been disclosed. Will this be contained within the industrial park, or are we going to be looking at the loss of agricultural land or wooded areas through eminent domain? So it's those kinds of things. What about, have you done your due diligence when we're looking at health issues, when we're seeing the increased relatedness of cancer with data centers? I heard the words of health and safety from Beale, but nothing was actually said. So we're not having transparent information and disclosure that we need to know get to the details. Also, this doesn't just affect Claremore. I run a small cow-calf operation out near Sequoia School, so it's just a few miles as the wind blows, and I am concerned about what will be in the wind. When there's tornadoes or when there's ice storms, what is the backup mechanism? What's going to be the emissions, the carbon emissions, the other particulates? What's going into our lake? So these are the things that we need to know about. Has there been consultation with Cherokee Nation? Because if we're having health issues in the long term, that's who's going to have to take care of it, unless Claremore is also going to build our health infrastructure. And what are your mechanisms planned to look into the health costs of our residents? So it's not just an issue for Claremore City, but it's an issue for our whole area, because what comes from this is going to be major fallout in so many ways. So I do hope that you do your due diligence and present us with substantial, detailed, critical information from the scientific studies, from the data, from the reports that are out there, because I didn't hear any of that. Thank you.
Amber Robinson Rodriguez from Claremore.
Hi, so we're being told that this project is in due diligence, but some of the plans you showed us left out like entire buildings that are in the open records request that you guys have been sending me, so that says feel very due diligent. The red line contracts you also sent me in those open records requests have some concerns. When those contracts delete findings of fault, standards of care, and liability for negligence, that is not due diligence. That is shielding the developer. When the same contracts let Beale walk away with only a refundable deposit, even if the infrastructure or water is damaged, that is not due diligence. That is transferring risk to the public. When the city spends $70,000 on evaluations but won't require a few thousand from the developer to let residents monitor their own drinking water, that is not due diligence. That is misplaced priorities. We're also told that the tax districting process was transparent, but the meetings violated the Open Meetings Act. Using those meetings to justify hundreds of millions in tax incentives is not due diligence. It is cutting the people out of the process. Project Mustang is a high-energy industrial facility bringing new fire and emergency risks and requiring massive electrical, water, and fire suppression infrastructure. And your due diligence is to remove negligence clauses. I'm submitting the petition to de-annex the site from the rural fire districts, the same one that was submitted by Meg from Knight, to remove them from the tax committee. You're bringing a facility that increases risk directly to them, and then you're removing them from the table that gives input on it. That does not feel like due diligence. So I think we should start tonight with due diligence. I think that we should commit to Beale providing water testing kits to neighboring residents. I think that Beale should commit to remedies if wildlife or water reports show harms to Cat Creek or any nearby wetlands. Claremore needs to require and enforce a binding reclamation plan, and the city needs to commit to void the current TID committee and all of the actions and restart this process with the public involved. Project Mustang is right next to Cat Creek, and wetlands are prone to flooding. We've already spent city funds evaluating the infrastructure upgrades needed to support it. You say that you're in due diligence, but we have seen lack of due diligence in this city. They have stormwater on those plans. We've seen lack of due diligence related to stormwater. We know what that costs our community. What is that going to cost us here?
Phil Boarding of Claremore.
plus and minus terminals. I would encourage all of you folks to visit the Google data center in Pryor and see what a working massive power air-cooled system looks like and how it operates. Realize that the AI activities will solve real problems. This machine will compute those solutions. That means better drugs, better ways to solve cancer problems, better airplanes, safer cars to drive, efficient human-in-the-loop systems, which is what AI is going to be. I was just at an agentic AI workshop in Huntsville, Alabama. These industrial park funds will help fund Rogers County, more employees making wages. It will help fund the city of Claremore school systems. We're very proud in Oklahoma to be number 49 out of 50 in SAT scores. Why? Why aren't we putting all of this energy we're hearing tonight into solving that problem? I'm here to be positive. Thank you.
Bill Hooker of Claremore.
Well, I'm not here to parade anybody, but I am here to share 50 years. Take it out. You can hold it. There you go. We reserve the podium, you know. I am here to share 50 years of engineering and physics experience. In that, my last years before I retired in 2005, I spent 4 years as the IT liaison between GE and Walmart. I've worked with a lot of these companies that are being mentioned around here, either as a vendor or as a customer. And my real concerns here are the fact it's not so much the data center, it's the process that we're doing to get here. Okay? Due diligence is a pretty nasty process. It doesn't stop at phase one like you saw up there on that slide. It goes all the way to the end. And an admiral once said, the devil's in the details. And that is the truth. Because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of questions that need to be asked. And it needs to be done in a certain order. I managed a lot of large IT projects over my years, and I'm actually quite concerned for the simple fact that sometimes we try to short circuit things. As a vendor, I know that we had lawyers that would wordsmith things to kind of smooth things over with our customer. As a customer, we did the same thing to our vendors. Okay? And this is a really complex issue if you look at it. We don't want to air our dirty laundry as a city to Beale. Beale sure isn't going to air their dirty laundry to us. So the real thing is communication. Bottom line is economic development doesn't require secrecy. Okay? And I'll tell you what, this whole technology changes so fast that 1 month from now, we can be changing out the server racks at this data center because we get 20% more efficiency. That comes at a price. It's a heat load. And we have all these claims that these chip makers are going to make chips that are a lot cooler and everything. That's vaporware. They put that out there so they can sell stock and give more money to their shareholders. The company's been doing that for hundreds of years. Okay? Well, as long as it stops. That's really all I got. Thank you.
Michelle Steenson of Claremore.
here for over 37 years. Like one of my predecessors, I'm on Oaklawn Drive. When Beaver was from my neighbor who said, it's going to be in your backyard. Literally, I looked at their beautiful drawings tonight. I looked back up to Cat Creek, and all this easement and things to do with my property. But the drawings I was provided show my property being annexed. So them saying that my property be protected, I'm now confused. Pretty drawings. I worked in big tech for 40 years. So I know a lot about data. I was involved in a large project where I installed all the computers in the state of Missouri. So I've done large projects. And also in Los Angeles. We don't want to talk about that. But my predecessor said that Oaklawn development is 20-some years old. No, I've lived there 37 years and I bought the house used. I moved here for quality of life from California because I wanted the openness, the country life. I have a barn, had a horse, cattle, the whole bit. And that's what I came here for. And I see that disappearing. And like I said, when my neighbor said my property was going to be annexed, part of it, I was very upset because that's not what was presented tonight. We were told years ago that the Grand Lake Mental Health Center on Lowry Road would just be a counseling center and occasional meetings in the evening. They now have mental patients living there 24/7. The utility, I redid my house recently, bring it up because it's over 50 years old, and ONG came out and marked, you get your little flags. And I looked in my backyard, in my pasture, and I went, wait a minute, what's this huge flag in my pasture for? ONG informed me that I have a juncture in my pasture. Where it goes, I have no clue. There is also a large conduit that goes across Cat Creek going east to west. I've never been told what's in it. The storm we had recently with the tornadoes and the big winds took a number of trees down. That is now bent almost in half. I had to remove the trees on my side of the property, but Cat Creek now, I don't think even with the detention pond would ever flood again, but it's backing up our direction because there are now huge trees lying in Cat Creek. So it's a pretty drawing, but the reality of Cat Creek, north of Flowery Road, after the storms, is the tree damage is horrific. And of course, the wildlife concerns, we have beaver, foxes,
thank you.
deers and stuff, and I would like to protect some of the lifeline and my quality of life. Thank you.
William Sweet of Claremore.
Hello, my name is William Sweet. I'm going to start with a little scripture too. The Lord Jesus himself said, love God above all, love your neighbor as yourself. And you can't look me in the eye and say you're going to trade your house with one of these people at Oaklawn and set that as my heart breaks for anybody out there. I understand a little bit about construction too. I understand a little bit about plumbing. I understand how stuff flows downhill. Cat Creek runs the length of our city through parks, ballparks. Y'all should know that. It runs through our ballparks and parks. They're already having to put riprap on it from flooding and all kinds of stuff. It's a horrible place. Now, let me go to, first off, for any younger people out here, governing in secret is not normal. It should never become normal. But lately, it seems to be happening all over our region, and it's not right. It's not the way to govern in a representative republic, and you've heard a lot about that. And that needs to hit home for everybody here. Leaders aren't supposed to sign multiple NDAs with Beale, GRDA, PSO, whoever is all involved in this. And they won't even tell you what all the NDAs they have signed. Because GRDA is in this, all this whole battery, the reason Rogers County is getting sued, I'm almost going to guarantee you, because they want to put a data core from power plant to power plant, and they want to desolate our region with solar panels. I heard somebody say something good about Pryor. I would like you to go across the highway, and then I'd like you to go across True Road, and you'll see solar deserts. The town of Pryor is getting surrounded This is not a good, I live less than a mile. I live on Captain Creek. There's a flood retention pond, and I get to watch deer. I've seen coyotes, all kinds of things. And what, if you'll see, go look what the Clydesdale, they strip it out from the roots. Everyone here's got roots in this community, but they're going to rip up every root. They need to. They don't care about roots. And this, as far as governing, this goes for you guys to deal. It's not right to expect people to keep secrets from the constituents, from the people that voted them in. I'm telling you, if this goes through, I hope y'all done it for politics, because you're just done. I'm just going to tell you, it's done. There's a move happening across Oklahoma. These kind of politics, you're kind of smirking. It's got to be done. I want you to. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you, John, because if you're going to claim good boards, you need to see it.
Robert McDonald of Claremore. Charles Sturdivant of Claremore.
If you call the next person after each person having to stand behind you, could shave off a lot of time.
I kept thinking that too. Have to be
You
ready.
don't have to be like on deck, like in baseball.
My name is Charles Sturdivant, and I live in Woodlawn Acres. And I had another question about water, but it's been beaten to death, so I'm just.
Can't hear you, Charles.
Sir.
I'm sorry.
We can hear you, but if you hold
Okay.
the microphone close, the people in the back can hear you. It's for the people in the back, it's not for us. We can hear you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so all I'm going to do is tell everybody here, I worked in the engineering department of big buildings in Tulsa, big buildings. And the most efficient way of cooling a facility like that is with a water-cooled facility. So, but if they say they're going to use air-cooled, that's going to make the electric usage be much higher. I would say at least 25% higher than if they just water-cooled it. So I don't know what the reasoning is behind saying that air cooling is the way to go, but anyway, I just wanted to share that with people and let you think about it. Thank you.
Glenn Schaefer of Claremore.
I've been there 45 years, if that matters, and I'm here to speak in support of the data center. And over the years, I have watched the city, been very appreciative of the leadership and the progression that I've seen, particularly in the last few years. And So I think I probably represent what's called a silent minority in the city, that really is thoughtful and looking and seeing what I believe is happening in the city. And so with that, I'd just like to simply say, I've heard the concerns, I looked at the concerns, and I think probably some of the concerns might fit in some situations. But when I look into what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and what I see, there are some things I think that are particularly important to point out. And one is there's no tax incentives that's been given to the company in order for them to be able to come here. I think that's important, and I think that's significant. Also think that it's important that the facility that is being built, as well as the substation, is being paid for, not by the city. I think that's significant. I think it's also significant that the existing electric grid will not be used for Claremore, but rather a direct line from GRDA to the data center will be constructed, and I think that is significant. I think it's significant that Claremore being, GRDA being a wholesaler, that we've had a long time contract, will be able to have a meter that reads from that, and also we receive, the city would receive proceeds from that. I think that's very significant in light of the aging infrastructure and the other areas without putting existing tax burden upon the people for the city of Claremore to be able to do things that's been needed to be done for a long time and to represent tens of millions of dollars. And so I understand some of the concerns about noise I've heard. What I heard tonight is 55 decibels. I've paid a lot of money for dishwasher and get down that low, and I hardly ever hear it. I've monitored on my phone tonight, and it's not gotten less than 57 in the room, and that's when nobody else was speaking. So I'm not concerned about that. I've been concerned about, I heard some other concerns that came up concerning the area of the NDAs, and I understand that, but it's extremely common for cities to sign NDAs when working with corporations. And so there's a number of things that I see that would be benefit, and so I want to go on record as speaking out positive part, and I encourage those of you to do that. I don't know whether to receive an offer or do an altar call.
John N. Callen of Claremore.
Well, I didn't actually think I'd get a chance to speak tonight because there's so many people here, and I want to say that I really appreciate how many smart, intelligent people have come up here and given you guys the riot act. I think the one thing that I want to leave you with is that it seems to me, from all the people I've spoken to in the community, that there's a lack of transparency on the part of the commission here. You guys have been talking about this for many years, and I moved back to Claremore a couple of years ago. I've been getting the paper every week, 2 copies every week. And I'm reading, and I haven't seen a lot of information about this until just recently. And now it's kind of like the deal is done, and there's no going back. And you guys are just fine with that. And I don't think the community is. And I think maybe you need to listen to the community, and by gosh, you're going to get a letter from me. Thank you.
Cheyenne Morgan of Claremore.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Cheyenne Morgan. My family has been in this area since the Trail of Tears. My great-grandfather was the Cherokee Nation counselor in this area, and he was a servant leader for this area, and I think that each one of you would claim to be a servant leader for this city, and you have a responsibility to the community here, who are all saying mostly that They do not want a data center in their backyard. They do not want a data center here. I see communities across the nation speak up against these data centers, and by and all, these developments are manufacturing consent from communities through city councilors, and it's shameful. You should take note of every single community member here that is saying, no, we do not want this. Thank you.
Darren Blanchard of Claremore.
Please don't start my time. Go ahead. I know. I'd like to talk a moment about compliance, specifically compliance with the Open Records Act. I was a compliance officer for about a decade, so I know a thing or two about rules and regulations. And I got news for you. There are major concerns about the public process in Claremore. I filed a few records requests with the city and the county, and it's amazing what I found. First, I want to talk about what compliance looks like. I filed a records request on January 8th asking for all communications with third parties that characterize, summarize, or profile citizens who have asked about public records or who have filed records requests. Basically, I asked for the Claremore watch list. I didn't know what to expect, but I received an email record from October, courtesy Maggie Froman Knight, sent direct to Lauren Harvey of Beale Infrastructure, saying there was a private citizen who inquired about the Shell LLC Beale uses to acquire property. To Ms. Froman Knight's credit, she did not name this person, but she provided Ms. Harvey with identifiable traits of this person, including where she lived, what she did for a living, and what her family's role was in this community.
Shame.
She even assessed this person's threat level and gauged her motive for Project Mustang, and also noted that she was active in the Project Clydesdale hearings in Tulsa County. Now, I'm saying she. How do I know it's a she? Because I can look at the meeting minutes in Tulsa County from July, and I read the list of all the names who spoke at that meeting. I can look up those names and see where they live. Shayna Atkins is on that list, and she lives in Rogers County. Did I guess right? But I have a follow-up question. I'm on that list too. So what's my threat level? Do I give you, quote unquote, heightened concern? Should I be worried? City Council? This is alarming. This is beyond Ms. Froman Knight's scope of duty. The Claremore Industrial Economic Development Authority has a fiduciary responsibility to the public, not to build infrastructure.
Yes.
And this act of overreach is putting the health and safety of members of this community at risk. Quite frankly, this is embarrassing, it's disgusting, this is absolutely shameful, and I ask you to place Ms. Froman Knight on administrative leave until you can figure out what the hell is going on here. On the other spectrum, non-compliance, I put in another records request on January 29th asking for all city contracts, including NDAs signed with organizations or businesses that have been sanctioned by the United States Treasury Department, specifically the Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. The response I got back was, quote unquote, no records exist. Seems like a good answer, but that was a bad move, my friend. Mr. Fury, you signed an NDA in early 2024. That was with IPI Partners. IPI was rebranded as Beale Infrastructure. What's interesting, just a couple of months ago, IPI Partners was in the news, and not in a good way. They were cited in an enforcement release by the Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence for knowingly accepting substantial funding from sanctioned foreign investors. No, I'm reclaiming my time. Now this sounds like a bad thing. It is. From my standpoint, you're because you said no records exist. No, where they do exist. I have it right here, black and white.
Please respect the process. Sir, please respect the process. Can you please?
Y'all don't want to work with terrorists? What's going on?
Please take care of it. Please take.
Can I present my record?
Shannon Atkins of Claremore. Okay, we just need everybody to sit down. We need to get through the meeting so that everyone can talk. Okay, in order to get through this, it's going to help if each person can talk, whether they're for or against, without the clapping and whatever things happen. That way you can have your 3 minutes without being interrupted. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it from both sides.
I'm also a tax-paying citizen who has a family that supports our local 4-H club and veterans at our Claremore Veterans Center. I started my interest in data center construction mainly for 2 reasons only: to inquire of information and real estate comps were investigated for resale value of homes in proximity of the data centers, and the effect of the noise, vibration, water, and air quality. What kind of effect would that have on cattle and our farm animals? For your consideration, has there been a study conducted on the effects on those animals and those property values? With all that said, because of my curiosity, on October 23rd, an email was sent from CETA to employees from Beale Infrastructure, Blue Owl, our city manager, John Ferry, his assistant, Stan Brown, as well as representatives from GRDA and Claremore City Clerk, Sarah Sharp, discussing a certain individual who made an inquiry regarding Quartz Mountain Properties agreement items listed on CETA board meeting agenda. Quartz Mountain, we know now, is Project Mustang. That individual was me. And I have a copy of that correspondence between myself and Ms. Fromm and I, but I can't email you, or I do have the hard copy, as well as a discussion in the entities. Why is my local government coordinating with a private company in regards to a private citizen's request for open records? And furthermore, why are they discussing my threat level to a project and not strategize together against me? Saying words like for strategy context, they are generally neutral, or overall the Claremore team does not have heightened concern. It's not unacceptable. How is any citizen supposed to feel safe with this level of conspiracy from a local government? I am ashamed of you. I am truly ashamed of you. I raised my children in this community, and I'm ashamed of the representation that they have at this moment. And I'm also ashamed of Beale Infrastructure for providing you all the template for the NDA. What do you say about that? If they're so positive about their big plans, why are they supplying you with the NDA template? I'm just super curious about all that. I get in trouble a lot for being curious. Let's see, on down here, GRDA, they won't raise rates on a citizen ratepayer, yet there is some suggestion based on a Genius analysis that a rate increase to the ratepayer would be $10 a month or 5.41% increase. Please ponder that as you deliberate. I do have a copy of that for your, if you like to look that too, correspondence. And finally, you indicated that when you go to church where there's nothing hidden that will not be disclosed and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought to the open.
David Dyer of Claremore.
I would say at the onset, there's been a lot of really good information brought forward tonight. A lot of very intelligent, informed people that have enlightened us to a lot of stuff. I would say that I also am not in favor of that center. I think it drains our community instead of adds to it. I think it takes away more than it brings. I think it's going to give to a few at the expense of the rest of us. I don't think
Beto Rodriguez of Claremore.
My name is Alberto Rodriguez. I work in the industrial park and see firsthand how responsible development can benefit our community. Companies there set standards, real jobs, renewable energy, environmental conservation. This project, as proposed, does not meet that standard. When my wife and I bought our home, we specifically chose not to connect to the Claremore power grid. As a remote worker, she has had to verify to employers when outages caused her to be offline. Infrastructure failures directly affect livelihoods in our community, and development decisions must reflect that reality. I want to work collaboratively to ensure Project Mustang benefits Claremore, not just the developer. Will all jobs go to legal Oklahoma residents with priority for Rogers County? Will contractors be required to document who they hire and where those workers come from? Will the city require quarterly compliance reports? And will violations be treated as a material breach, allowing the city to withhold payment or stop work? Equally important, residents' water and environmental health must be protected. Baseline monitoring is already underway. A local 13-year-old has collected water and wildlife data for years, with formal wildlife reports expected this summer. Beale was asked to provide water testing kits to Toledo residents. That request was ignored. Will Beale provide kits to all neighboring residents so impacts can be measured independently? Will Beale agree in writing to remedies if future water or wildlife reports show harm? Finally, regarding the tax districting, I need clarity on process and compliance. Many residents feel they were left in the dark about these deals. When I located the TID committee records, they were not in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. I am submitting the agendas and minutes, and both are missing the legally required notice of public posting. Given these documented gaps, will the council commit tonight on the record to avoiding the current TID process and starting over in full compliance with state law? I'm asking this to ensure accountability and transparency so that any decision about this project is made lawfully, openly, and with the public's trust. Power to the people.
John Malone, excuse me, John Malone of Claremore.
I'll keep it short and sweet. There's a lot of things that have already been said that I was going to say. However, I'm going to bullet point a few. One, I live in the Oakland edition, so this directly affects me. I want to guarantee what the noise levels will be, and if they exceed that, will they shut it down? Now, you say you're going to be cooled by air coolers. Air coolers are not quiet. They can make it quiet, but it's very expensive to get that quiet air cooler. Air coolers run around 85 to 90 dBA SPA. At our boundary line, we need to guarantee that you're not going to see the noise level of 35 SPA dBA. We need that guarantee for noise. And that noise will be harmonic.
Right.
You get noise from the motors as well as the fans on air coolers. And air coolers will evaporate water in normal recirculation. I don't know how many air coolers or what the banks are going to be. That is not a quiet operation. If this thing is such a great deal, why don't they go somewhere like Pitcher where they don't have to affect anything? It's already
and destroyed. One gentleman brought it up, I was gonna bring up, I done Bill put up a bond, because if they default on anything, not leave our taxpayers liable for that.
Here, here.
These servers go out, have to be replaced over to, what I've read, every 5 to 7 years. So they're going, if they're not making their return, because this is a private company, investors, all they're concerned about is return on investment. They don't care about our quality of life here. That's why they're building here, not their backyard. But we need guarantees of the noise level. Also, Cat Creek runs right between the data center and Oakland Drive. Cat Creek runs all the way through Claremore. How often are you going to monitor it for contaminants? That needs to be lodged, and the city needs to put that out there. Thank you.
Reese Bear of Claremore.
Good evening, everyone. Just like to speak about past performance, specifically Beale infrastructure. Sorry, just like to specifically speak to past performance of Beale infrastructure. How long has it been since you've had a data center from concept to completion? How many have you done from concept to completion? And what are the public standards of those data centers at this point? Well, I'll answer your question because you're not answering anything. It's zero. You've done none. And as long as past performance is the topic, tonight and the future decisions are all part of your past performance.
Shelley Ewell of Claremore.
I live outside the city limits. My question is, this is a city limit thing. Why? Why can't it be in the county? Because it affects the county. It affects everybody that lives around it. So why can't it be put to a vote in the county? The other question that I have is, this is going to affect Cat Creek. Cat Creek flows into Dog Creek. Dog Creek flows behind Swan Dairy. There's cattle. How's that going to affect them? You guys don't really seem to care too much. And that's really sad.
Aaron Jennings of Claremore.
I'm sorry, I don't talk very well. Okay, so there's a lot of talk, right, about the electrical substation with the public and the private, right? So it'd be nice to understand what is public, what is private. And the other thing that I really had a question on is everyone was talking about the substation being built by Beale, but who's gonna own and maintain it? And so once we start maintaining it, is that gonna be the taxpayers' money? So can we do something like the Gathering Park where they pay for the next 20 years on maintenance? And I've done a lot of these for my job coming up and talking with the city councils. And so a lot of times we do a development agreement and get all this stuff documented, and then we come back up and we present all these questions. So are we gonna have Beale come back in the next meeting and address all these questions to everyone so we can understand it all? But again, my biggest thing is the maintaining it in owning it after they get it built. Thank you.
Brian Green of Claremore.
Good evening, Brian Green here. Native Rogers County guy of multiple generations. Our family lives within 2.5 miles of this site. I have 4 other family members that live closer to that. I serve the community in several different levels. I've got 11 grandchildren that live or play within 2 miles of this site. Anybody wants to see the pictures of my grandchildren, I'm saying after. No, but really. So I've been asked several times, do you support, what do you think about the proposed data center? After a lot of research, looking, studying, and keep in mind, this is my home. This is where I live, this is where we worship, this is where we raise our families. So we look at it in different ways. So, the industrial park as we know it, since I've been alive, is known as an industrial park. We've seen things, we've seen Belco, we've seen some places come and go. What could be built in the area that the data center proposed? Right, so could it be a lot of different uses? Data center was probably the least of the most heavy use that could be in there. It could be a galvanizing plant. It could be lots of other things that would make a lot more noise, a lot more light, a lot more activity, a lot more heavy loads in and out. Hey, we love our manufacturing company. You want to be up behind another wide load right now, Blue Rogers Boulevard or Lynn Riggs. Construction traffic with data center building is heavy, but after that it's light. So I look at what traffic would be long term for Claremore, and I think this would be better than a heavy industrial use. I've spoken to several of the manufacturing companies in Claremore, and they shared that we would love to see the industrial park go ahead and build out, but what we don't want to see is another company that requires a CNC operator or a welder. They are having to move some of their businesses and their growth to other communities because we don't have enough people to fit those type of jobs. The data center doesn't take those kind of jobs. Jobs with data centers, let's think about that for a minute. Okay, 50 to 75 jobs, long-term jobs. That's not a big number. I look outside of that and think, what else around the data center support do you need? I can see office warehouses with HVAC folks in it, janitorial folks in it. Or someone's got to change the light bulb, change the filters, mow the grass, do security. So I see a lot of other businesses that could surround something like a data center that would supply jobs. Right? So there's
Patty Lyle from Talala.
Sarah, we may have a few counselors just step out from the rest of you to make sure you know that
Did someone leave from down there?
there's
Yeah, I got Herb. Just Adam.
It's okay if some of them left listening anyway. Okay, I'm gonna lay some facts on you. This is a public meeting and it's a bad idea to discourage applause. That was done on November 18th, 2025, over in the courthouse when we had a meeting about PSO wanting to get a special exception. And it's just, you know, it's not a good look. This is a public meeting. People giving applause is their right. And also, Sarah's taking her dang time to get the next people up here, even though there's more efficient ways. So we got time to clap, so chill, okay? All right, number 2. Do any members of the city council live within a mile of the proposed data center? I don't know the answer to that yet, but I guarantee you tonight when I get home, I'm going to go on the assessor's webpage and I'm going to find out. I bet none of y'all live anywhere near where this data center is going to be. That's just my guess. I don't know. Okay, number 3, air-cooled facility. That's what they said. I took pictures of some of their slides up there. So they're saying that they're only going to take 15,000 to 20,000 gallons per day water usage. Lie, lie, lie. Okay, from the Environmental Energy Study Institute, we find that a medium-sized data center uses approximately 110 million gallons per year. Well, at the rate of 15 to 20, I just went to 20 and did the math, that would be only 7.3 billion per year of gallons of water. Okay, that's just water usage. And when they use that much water, there's going to be wastewater, and it's got to go somewhere. So I don't know how they think that they're going to have their air-cooled facility and do better than all the other data centers in the nation, but maybe they have a new invention that they're going to share with the world and be able to use less water. I don't know. But last night, I happened to be at Rural Water District number 4's annual meeting and their following board meeting. And I found out from them that we've had data centers proposed in the Ulaga area. Okay, so before they can do anything like that, they have to approach the water people to see if they can get the water. And guess how much water they needed? They were going to need an 8-inch pipe to travel 2 miles to bring them water. Now, why would you need an 8-inch pipe if all you need is 15 to 20,000 gallons per day? Well, let me tell you, I happened to look it up. An 8-inch pipe supplies between 1.3 million and 4 million gallons per day. Okay, so when this data center developer, the last one, because we've had several, but the last one that approached, when they were told it was going to cost 20 to 25 million to do all these upgrades to bring them all that water, they didn't even blink. So there's a lot of big money, deep pockets, and they aren't going to care about us. This one, that they've already bought some land. There was an NDA, but you know, whatever, they bought the land for it.
Thank you.
So zero discharge is not possible. Don't believe it. They're lying to you.
Thank you, ma'am. We
And that
appreciate
ain't
you very
fun.
much. Thank you.
Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen of Claremore. Brandon Allen. Savannah Brantley of Claremore.
Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. My name is Savannah Brantley. I'm a student at Rogers State University. I'm an elementary education major, and I'm not going to quote the Lorax, I promise. But I am going to say that I am very future thinking. And for me, progress doesn't look like a data center. To me, that looks like me getting the opportunity to teach your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. Sorry, I'm not great at public speaking. One of my main things that I'm going to say, though, is that this is not the place where you advocate. They are not going to hear you. What you need to go for is certified notice to officials above your student council. City council. County commissioners, exactly. You deserve better. The truth is they have lied to us. They lied to our face. 15,000 to 20,000 gallons of water, that is not 1 to 2 restaurants. That is enough for a small city. That's what we're seeing in Jay, Rowe, smaller cities like that. Working hard for conservation is a really great feat, and it's something that they're trying to ground themselves as. But I can promise you something. They are causing the need for conservation in the first place. You do deserve better. Your children deserve better. It is. Stated on our website, Beale takes care to choose sites to avoid sensitive habitats and design developments that minimize ecological disruption. We are at a tumultuous time where we do not need a lasting impact of the data center. So why would we like to take that chance anyways? Not to mention, there is no promise that those jobs that they promise all of us will go to people of this district. They would have worked these jobs in the first place. Why would you trust them to create them? They would never get the answer to do the kind of things that we do day to day. And my last thing is, if you would like to join me, I'll be running outside the DCTC tonight once this concludes. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, guys. Next on the agenda, item number 4, discussion and/or questions amongst council and representatives of Beale Infrastructure, city staff, and Claremore Economic Development regarding the Claremore Data Center. I don't know who wants to come up from Beale, or a couple of you, depending on the questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question from the council?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a question posed regarding solar panel development in the beginning of the community's questions. Will Project Mustang result in solar panel development to power the facility in any of the plan levels that was shown on the presentation? Is that a possibility?
No, there's going to be no solar development on the site. As to what GRDA procures in order to provide generation to their system as a whole, we can't speak to that.
Okay.
But I know we will not be directly adding any solar to the site or to the project.
Okay.
Do you have any more? You said there, sorry. You said, how do you, button.
You said there would be 35 to 70 jobs. Do you have like an average pay for those jobs that you will be there consistently? I don't know if you can or not, but.
Conservatively, we are looking at $75,000 per job. That would be salary, not benefits.
Could you tell me how many air-cooled data centers exist currently across the country? Have you all built them? Are there any close by?
I would say probably not the majority of data centers are air-cooled, but there are a significant number of them across the United States. They're very common. There are some in Pryor. I believe there's a couple of within the Pryor campus that are air-cooled. It really just depends on what the available capacity is for water and if it's feasible to deliver a specific amount of quantity to that site. But they're not uncommon, no.
So originally the plans considered water-cooled. Why was the change in Claremore?
The basically the cost and the level of infrastructure that would have to be built in order to achieve an water-cooled design was just too significant. And we worked with the city and worked with third-party engineers to study the city system, study capacity that was available, and where the water source is coming from. Again, we are a customer, or we will be a customer of the city of Claremore, not the rural water district. I want to clarify that. And it just was not feasible. But we do look at all options to see what makes most sense.
Will we own, how does that, I noticed in your presentation you said electrical, private, and public. So can you explain the difference and who will own it after the build is complete?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and feel free if anyone on the city side wants to jump in here too, but there will be 2 substations. One is a substation that delivers power from GRDA's transmission system to a substation next to the project. That will then be built by GRDA. Beale is funding that. The city of Claremore is going to add a meter to that substation because they are the power provider. So the power is coming wholesale from GRDA to that substation. It is then being sold to the project through that meter. That then goes to a smaller substation on site
That is correct. So the question came up earlier, who will own the substation once it's complete? It will be a GRDA-owned substation, and they will be required in partnership with the developer on any maintenance like they do any of their other substations. And that substation is fed directly off a mainline transmission that is existing adjacent to the site, and it will feed that substation directly, and that will go into the customer substation. Our existing distribution system, our 5 substations, will not ever be able to power or supply the product needed for that site. It will be isolated to an extent that their on-site will be independent from us. However, that substation that GRDA will own, that they are paying to build, will have the ability to backfeed to us if we're ever in a situation that we would need power, additional power. But we will never be able to subsidize power to that site. And to Ms. Harvey's point, we will place a meter as a point of demarcation and will sell the power. And the reason there is no necessary cost increase is because there's no need for GRDA to go out and construct any additional generation capacity. They already have it through the Southwest Power Pool study. So a lot of what you're hearing from the IOUs, what we call independent or investor-owned utilities, when they make these commitments and they're looking for fee recapture or rate increases, is because they need to go out and spend hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on generation. So they're looking for a way to make sure they pay for that and recapture it over a series of years. That doesn't need to be done in this particular situation.
This is for John and or Mickey. How many tax incentive districts or TIFs has the city done over the last 10 or 15 years, and how many of those have failed?
So specific to the industrial park, there was a TIF done for Baker Hughes as well as AXH. AXH closed nearly a decade earlier. It was a month shy of a decade early because their investment was so expeditious in that sense. And so AXH started with 1 building, a little less than, I want to say it was about 30 employees. Today, there are over 1,000 employees and 1 million square feet in Claremore as a result of that initial investment. Separately, Baker Hughes, as we talked about, that energy research facility is the only one in the world. That one also was made whole prior to the expiration of the TIF as agreed upon. The other one was Next Nano, originally was Next Gen. It was amended in year 2 because there was a transition as a startup company. It was still finished a year ahead of the amended date. That company started with a little less than 20 employees. Today they have 2 sites and over 100 employees in Claremore's industrial park. So no TIF tied to the industrial park has not closed. In fact, nearly all of them have closed early.
And Deputy Mayor, there was a city TIF related to the Promise Hotels, which was the Holiday Inn. And while that is going through reconstruction and remodel, that TIF also paid when they sold to a different entity. So that TIF was made whole and paid in full, all obligations met.
I do have another question. What is the lifespan of an air-cooled data center?
So we look at these facilities on 25-year plus lifespans. So that's what they're built, and that's what we expect.
So what happens after 25 years?
Typically, they continue to operate. So one of the oldest data centers in the country is actually located in the Cherokee Industrial Park over in Owasso. They rarely close down, so what they do is, someone actually alluded to this earlier, the servers they're shells, and the servers are taken out and refreshed. So as technology changes and becomes more efficient, we are able to then upgrade the building without basically deserting the whole project. We just continually upgrade it and continue to reinvest.
Okay, thank you.
This comes to Maggie or whoever. Can you kind of explain how a TIF works, just in case people do not know?
So TIFs and TIDs are a little bit different. A tax increment district can be an abatement. Typically, we see those be 5 years in Oklahoma. For example, that was what Sofadel and Inola did. In 2023, the state of Oklahoma authorized a TID specific to the industry code
for data centers to be allowed for 25 years. So that's an abatement. If they TID, it's an abatement of either 5. If a data center, they could be eligible for up to 25 years. Tied to that, there's often what's called a pilot or a payment in lieu of tax that is made as a tie of that abatement. Separately, a TIF often involves debt service, which is what we did with the other projects that were mentioned. Any new investment, so any any property tax that any of our schools or Career Tech are already getting is not touched. Any new tax created as a result of that investment, and if not but for that investment, then pays for that debt service. So as a tactical example, the Baker Hughes substation was approximately $4.2 million. That is a public city asset. As a result of their investment, that was captured to pay that off over a period of time.
You guys mentioned an open house for the vendors. Is there a percentage kind of how many that open house actually do you guys use when that happens? Does that make sense? You may not have numbers on that, I just wondered.
Well, I can speak briefly to that in regards to what we're doing on Project Clydesdale. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Just in regards to Project Clydesdale, so we did make an effort to utilize local labor and vendors for that delivery, and I think what it shook out to was over 78% local vendors to the state of Oklahoma, being subcontractors, sub-tiered vendors. So.
So 2 questions, probably more for maybe. Heard a lot of talk about the water and electric use for this proposed project. How does that compare to business and industry manufacturing that is already in the industrial park? And then secondly, this might be for Beale more. I've heard a lot of talk about water runoff and the hazards of that. What is the water runoff that we are looking at with this project?
So specific to water, as was mentioned, it's on the FAQ page as well. As was defined in the journal record, Baker Hughes, per each of those testing wells, is using about 70,000 gallons per day in that closed loop system. So much less than one of those single wells, much less Baker Hughes has 4 other facilities here, and so that would not include any of those facilities or their operations there from that perspective.
Are they electric use?
So the electric use obviously is much different because of the type of provider and operation this is from that perspective. And so when you have someone like a traditional manufacturer where the shift is coming in at 6 a.m., they're all powering up and then powering down as you go through shifts. And so varies across the industrial park. Within the industrial area, you have on the existing infrastructure about 50 megawatts, I believe, John, if I'm right, within that infrastructure, and so that's serving that with about 5 megawatts capacity at the existing. And so one of the challenges that we've had in activating the northern portion of this industrial park is the fact that we need that substation in order to power any operation there. Similar, as Councilor Irwin asked, is with the TIF, if we did traditional manufacturing, we would have to TIF that investment. Whereas that's part of the appeal of this particular project is that its investment is made into that substation as well as the opportunity to backfeed that into, in the event needed, into other manufacturing operations.
I think I have a few questions. I tried to.
They still had a question regarding the water runoff.
Water runoff?
Yeah.
I can address that first. That's okay. So yeah, talking about water runoff, that can happen or is managed in 2 parts of the project. One being construction, and so that goes through a state and local permitting process. It's called BNPs or best management practices. You have to submit your plans for stormwater management to the state, to the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. And basically it's all of we will study your topography, where you're impacting soils, and then how to manage so that stormwater and digging and everything like that is not going into streams and waterways. So there's Cat Creek on the site, which we saw, that will be fully protected with what we call BMPs, which are those measures that construction activities take to prevent any sort of runoff from flowing into that direction, and to prevent it from leaving the site, so no fees or runoff from construction activities. And then during operations, because obviously we're taking some forest land and making some of it hardscape, you have to manage basically the area that was made hardscape and calculate stormwater detention ponds, so that the stormwater where it would have gone through the porous ground is then running into a detention pond where it can then collect without running off onto neighboring sites. And in terms of wastewater, again, this site is air cooled, so most of the water there is just going to be your irrigation and domestic, and that will flow through a sewer system and be treated. It will also be going through a permitting process with the ODEP and locally.
How often will Beale or the end user test our local creeks to ensure that there's no chemical runoff or anything that adversely affects the environment?
With the SWIP permit, there's no regular testing that's required. And so basically if there is an issue, that's where the state can come and basically observe the site and see if there's issues, penalize the project, and instruct for fixing any issues. And Judge Jonathan, are you gonna?
Yeah, I just want to address Counselor. So engineering staff has a full-time stormwater person, so we do this all over the community now. So those results are always available. We actually partner with schools and we take kids out, but there's stream testing as we are required to, as we are a permitted municipality through the Department of Environmental Quality in Oklahoma. So we actually have to remit those test results of our current stormwater systems.
Okay, thank you.
And these projects, detention is always the biggest concern that we have and adjacent neighbors have. It doesn't matter if it's a 10,000 square foot lot that's going to be a Sonic or a 200 acre facility. It goes through a very scrutinous stormwater process through our engineering department, and often on bigger projects like this, we bring in an outside consultant. And that's why just today we talked about the future need for $11 to $12 million in future stormwater projects that were built 30 and 40 years ago prior to these inspections and best practices were put in place that we've now got to go back and fix. So we want to avoid those things in the future so future counselors and residents don't have to deal with those things.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any, like, what is the carbon emissions? Do you have any information on that, since people were asking?
So there's no carbon emissions on the site. There's no power being generated on the site. I think maybe that's where a lot of those questions may have been directed, is to the power that is being generated off-site would be run through GRDA. So that is, I think that's where those questions were maybe coming from. On the site, though, there is no generation that would create on-site emissions. Really, it's just hot air maybe from the servers that would be the only thing.
Well, maybe I can get through my question.
Yeah, you can do it.
I tried to keep a list as people were talking of the questions, so I tried to consolidate. Some of these would be probably quick answers. I know jobs have been brought up. That's something I was curious about myself, and 35 to 50 tech jobs. But in addition to that, there's going to be 200, 300. What's an estimate of jobs that will be permanent jobs after that? That would be the maintenance, etc. And would most of those people be local companies that are utilized?
Yeah, so the 35 to 50 full-time direct employees of the end user. There's also usually 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 ratio of permanent subcontracted maintenance jobs. So it's HVAC, electrical, plumbing, janitorial, security. All of those are full-time, 40-hour-a-week positions. Those are all available to be hired as local. I mean, they have to be on-site. They can't be remote. They're hired to come to the job site every day. Something that we can talk about is setting up like a hiring day when the operator comes into town and starts getting operating ramped up, is how to coordinate that with the school system, the career tech, and other opportunities in the community for people who just might be interested in talking about it.
And it would be hundreds of jobs then? Okay. Usage of this facility, is it going to be primarily cloud, internet, AI?
Yeah, this site is being designed for basically your backbone of the internet infrastructure. So it consists of power all the time, which is related to cloud. AI is being woven into basically our everyday website, so it's very hard to say AI is excluded from the facility, but it is not being designed for sort of a, we call it a peaky, which means your loads go up and down and up and down, for like a machine learning center, and it is not that.
Thank you. And number of phases projected? I know that was brought up.
Yeah, we're looking at about 3 phases right now. Like really what we're focused on is phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 is potential, but not being contemplated at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And this might be a question for Manager Fury. Is there going to be any new annexation? I've heard Oaklawn mentioned several times, so I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where that came from or what site map was distributed, but the state of Oklahoma, in a good way, years ago, there is no forced annexation anymore. It requires 75% of the property. There's only owner requested annexation. This property specifically, what they're talking about for development, does not need nor does it want, and we made it very clear when that first came up, there is no annexation. Annexation or eminent domain can now only be used for public use. So there is no avenue under law that would allow a municipality, a county, a school district, anybody who is subject or who's able to use annexation to go utilize that tool and then use it. It doesn't matter ownership. It has to be used. So there is no mechanism in which you could annex or eminent domain a property and then have it for a private end user. That is illegal in the state of Oklahoma. So there is no annexation. There's no need for any property adjacent to this. So I'm not sure where that came from. I apologize if somebody was floating that out there, but it did not come from the city, Claremore Economic Development, or the project team.
And I wanted to share this. Someone had mentioned Pryor ending or in a deficit. So I just, after that person said that, I just texted the mayor of Pryor and said, hey, is Pryor in a deficit, true or false? And he said false. We closed in the black, and the monthly revenues over expenses are in excess of $100,000. That's public record, so you can look that up yourself, but I just wanted to answer that question because I did text to ask them that question. Are there any other questions by the council?
I do have one more.
I do as well.
About the wetlands and how I didn't really understand what people can do for, you guys said there's some kind of benefit that people can reach out about for wetlands.
The Renew program, the state program?
Yeah.
I'm going to caveat this with I'm not our environmental specialist, so I'll do the best I can. And I'll get you more information after this meeting. But the Renew program is relatively new through OCC. So what they do is they identified several counties in Oklahoma that have wetlands or have had historical wetlands that either need to be protected or rehabilitated. And so a landowner who has wetlands on their property can reach out to OCC, submit an application. OCC provides funding and to rehab and rehabilitate or protect the wetlands that are on property. And that's what we're contributing to, specifically targeted to Rogers County. And they've identified Rogers County as one of those beneficiary counties.
There was a concerned citizen earlier that was addressing the noise and it being an air-cooled facility instead of water-cooled. Can you guys guarantee it will not go above 55 decibels, as stated?
Yeah, we are designing the site to meet 55 decibels. I do not know the city's code off the top of my head. I think it might be a bit higher for industrial, but that's not our plan. So 55 decibels is what we are designing to. With air coolers, that is true. Air coolers are louder than if you were doing water cooled. So what we will do is basically enclose those air coolers and then put them on noise attenuation. So things that would basically prevent noise from leaving the area and will significantly dampen any noise that they create. Yes, it is costly, but that is something that we are able and willing and want to do.
Thank you.
I did have just one more, sorry.
You said that it's a current site layout, so is that subject to change for the site layout?
Yes, it is subject to change. That's our current design. It is being built in phases, so we would build, basically what we know the first building's gonna look like today, submit that to the building department, and to the TAC review committee. They then take that and then review that against the zoning and building codes, and I'll let the city speak to sort of the regulations that are in place to support that.
Okay, I have two more questions. One specifically for you, and then the other one, I'm not sure who will answer it. So my understanding, just correct me if I'm wrong, the property will be purchased by the client. So the city will not own the land anymore. Is that correct?
The client, yeah, Beale will be purchasing the.
So if something happens down the road and the company goes under, the city's not gonna have that fallback on them?
No, it just goes into private land ownership.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. My second question, and I don't know who answers this, someone mentioned something about bank account information and funds received. I have no idea what that is.
Thank you, Mayor. So that was in question. So because of the long lead time that's required for some of the infrastructure, the fixed assets that are required for these, there was a bank account set up independently of the city's general fund at a separate bank, and that was so that the developer could go ahead and start funding and pre-procurement on long lead equipment. Some of these things that they utilize and that GRDA utilizes, the transformers, the auto transformers, they can have up to 100-week lead times. So basically that was GRDA saying, we're happy to go order it for you. We can't be a direct provider to you. So the city, we established, the council authorized at a public meeting, which was done very legally, the work order process. And so essentially GRDA would go out and work with the developers' engineering teams. They would decide what it was they needed for long lead procurement. GRD would provide a work order and an invoice to the city of Claremore. The city of Claremore then provided a work order and invoice through a process to Beale. Beale funded that bank account with a wire transfer, and then that money would go to GRDA. There's 10% down for certain things, and then there's milestone payments. So that is to make sure that the taxpayers and that city dollars are never used to buy or purchase assets or pay for construction of this process. So that's what that is. So that is what that particular issue was about.
I do have another question, John, and I think you would be the right one to answer. I was not aware that customer accounts for utilities were released in the open records request. Is that accurate?
I'm going to ask Adam. So I'm going to ask Adam Haven, because when this came up on a Facebook social media post, I immediately spoke with IT. Have we had any data breaches? No. I reached out to Adam because the law firm was referenced, and there's some context there that's being misplaced. So I'll allow Adam to touch on that.
Yeah, so Counselor, we have been responding to dozens of Open Records Act requests and produced thousands of pages of documents. That, when that came out about there being user accounts released, we're not aware of that. It was referenced on the social media as a Excel spreadsheet that was released with all of this information. We can't figure out what record they're referring to. Okay. So I know that got spread on social media, and there's a concern about that.
Yeah, tonight was the first time I had heard of it, so, yeah.
And there's also some provisions, I mean, account numbers, as long as there's not proprietary information. Everybody in here that has an account with Claremore Utility is actually subject to an open meetings or a public record. There's proprietary information associated with utility accounts, like social security numbers and specific usage, but there is nothing that precludes somebody saying, is John Fury a Claremore Electric customer and what's his account number? Now, you can't have access to proprietary information, but those are subject to public record or open records requests.
This is just a question for the council. I know that there's been mention that we don't care, so just anybody want to just give their take on
why they are sitting here at this position and why we're here.
I guess each of us could get 3 minutes, right?
Am I allowed to answer? Why am I here? Tonight I was asking myself that a lot.
Yeah.
I grew up in Chelsea. My kids went to school here. This is my home. When I was asked to consider running to be on the city council, I thought there was no better way to serve my community than this. State elected officials do a great job, but it's the city council and county commissioners who have the most direct impact on what we do, how we live, how we play.
If the question was why am I here, is that the question?
Why, and hopefully why you care.
Claremore is probably, in my opinion, the best small town in America. It is consistently ranks on one of the best towns. Consequently, you have a lot of, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, there is a lot of blue state, red state migration to this particular city that pops up on, if you're in another state, top 10 small towns in America. Claremore pops up on that frequently. I agree with that. I moved here in '94, and I own a number of businesses here. I have 3 boys, and I care about the community, so that's kind of why I'm here. A lot of the sentiment that was expressed this evening comes from a standpoint that you think that we get information before you guys do, and that is predominantly not the case. The presentation and a lot of the information that we get as a council is either available to you at the same time during our meetings, and we generally assimilate the same time you. The one question though that I did want to ask is, an industrial park is an asset of the city. With that understanding, with the understanding that the city has an asset to generate value to the community, that value is generally quantified with dollars, whether that's sales tax or whether that's use tax or whether it's some sort of dollar amount that the city can use as a benefit from that asset. And this question is probably best answered by Maggie. Is there another type of project that would provide less disruption than this type of project, but provide more revenue than this type of project, given the understanding that the primary benefit is going to be tax revenue to the district as well as utility electrical revenue to the city?
Not that we're immediately aware of. Certainly if someone's aware of something, we're not happy to be educated there. As mentioned earlier, with regard to traditional manufacturing, that would be offset by the requirement for the public body to invest in all of the infrastructure it would take to activate that project, because it is the city's requirement to provide utility to that private sector operator. And so that would be very challenging to make an approximately $100 million TIF whole without a significant investment, and that would come with debt service and all of those things tied to that. And so that is part of a significant benefit of this. It's also, went to Sequoia, drove up and down those roads as well, and so we're thoughtful about that. And so we want to make sure that we're not adding unnecessary traffic, particularly to this county roads on the west side. And so all of that was well intended in that way, and so that we can activate revenue opportunities for the cities to address our very aging and much needed infrastructure, not necessarily additionally on the back of the public sector again, rather in partnership with the private sector.
So of the type of projects you could put in an industrial district that is there for the benefit of the city, if somebody said that this is the probably the most productive and least disruptive type of thing you could put in an industrial area. Would you agree or disagree with that?
By comparison, this site has been a finalist for plastics extrusion, aerospace and aviation, rocket components, all of which would likely go to the 10-foot boundary at the parcel edges. So yes, based on our experience to date, again, happy to be educated, if there's something we're not aware of, we do feel like this is the highest and best use.
I know. I believe everyone up here cares about our community. It's not easy being on this side at the table. I don't know if anybody's aware, we get paid $100 a month. That's our salary, or $50 a meeting, and we have 2 meetings a month. So, I care. I might not agree with everybody, but I care. That's why when people come up to speak, whether it's for or against, I'm listening. I'm listening to everything they say. I'm taking notes, because I want to see what are the questions they have, and hopefully we get answers for those questions. Literally, I was allowed yesterday to meet the Beale group, and they gave us the presentation that they gave tonight. So that was the first time I had seen that, was yesterday. And it certainly answered a lot of the questions that I had, and a lot of the questions that people have asked me, over the last few weeks. So I appreciate everybody coming. I appreciate everybody sharing their input, because I think that's important. I think it's a part of our process that we should go through.
Okay, here.
Okay, I think it's probably important to lay out for those who aren't aware where we are in the timeline of this proposed project. Maybe for you, Mr. Manager, where are we? Just so we can lay out, because it seems to be, I'm hearing both sides. We are going to build, this is a proposed project. Maybe you can lay out where we are in that. Certainly. Thank you, Counselor. So right now, there is still due diligence being done on some things. We're talking about rate development, structure, securitization, contracts. And when I say securitization and contracts, I mean all of the fail-safes that we would put in place to ensure that, again, the community is not leveraged for any reason into the future. And I do appreciate, more than you know, as somebody who's been in public service 23 years, public input. I've been on both sides of it. I can just simply tell you that we did not go into this project and not think of every single thing that you all have thought of. We've had experts in, we've talked to them, we've had conversations as allowed by law in executive session about projects, economic development. This project has not been treated any different than any other economic development project we've ever done. Everything that we do is about equitability, doing it the same way, in compliance with the law. And that's what we've done here. So I will tell you right now, it is still proposed. There are things that the developer has to work out with taxing jurisdictions and other entities and bodies that it has to go through. And I would anticipate that there will come a point in the near future that sometime within the next 60, 90, 100 days, that they will come back to us, those other entities who are members of the tax incentive district. Again, this is a tax incentive district proposal, not a tax increment financing, so two different things. There are no dollars given to the developer like there is a TIF. There is no upfront money spent. There is nothing like that. So, and directly, even the $71,000 water study that we had to do with Garver, there is a work order on, and Beale is reimbursing that. That was part of the stipulation when we entered into that probably a year or so ago. So, once those things are done, they will come back, the taxing entities and the TID committee that this council authorized back in May will reconvene at some point. We don't know when. That consists of a lot of working professionals from different entities around the county. They will present a project plan, they will make a recommendation, there are public hearings, there's all sorts of stuff is all spelled out in the Local Development Act. It's all stipulations of law in the Local Development Act. And so, long story short, they will go through some processes, and then at some point, if the recommendation of the TID committee to the council is to consider the establishment of a TID district, then that would be a consideration that the council would have. It's important to know that the council will consider a establishment of a tax incentive district. The council doesn't, and the city doesn't get to permit or not permit the use, because that is allowed by right, which is a term in law in Oklahoma, since the property is zoned industrial. So if it's not a data center, if it's something else that comes there, and or even if the data center decided we don't want to do a tax incentive district, they could just say, we've closed on the property, we've bought what is owned by the Claremore Economic Development Authority, because there is no city-owned property out there, and then 150 acres is owned by a private family that requested the annexation and the rezoning of industrial 2 decades ago. If they bought that property and came to us and said, we're ready to build, it's simply establishing the permit and them paying to build their site. So I want to make sure that that's clear. There's not the authorization of a project as far as specifics. There would be the consideration, authorization, or denial of a tax incentive district. So I would anticipate sometime in the next 100 days or so, depending on that, there might be starting to get those scheduled. Maybe before. It just depends on where they're at with these entities. And those are conversations that we're not in the middle of.
Anybody else have questions or statements they want to make?
2 comments. One, the people, John, I guess you can answer this. Who is negotiating the tax incentive? And then secondly, I think you just answered my second question, but the site that they are wanting to build on has been zoned industrial for how long?
So the site was first started being acquired, those sites in 2002. This portion specifically, the north part, 2010 is when the family requested annexation, and we believe 2014 rezoning, and then there's been subsequently land use master plans, the establishment of special districts as comp plans evolve over time that have always established that lawfully as industrial use. And then as far as the developer is working with those taxing entities. And again, that's not asking them to give something, that's them working with those taxing entities that would typically receive ad valorem taxes for those pilot programs, which is that payment in lieu of taxes. So they're out making negotiations and, hey, look, we understand that this land is not generating anything now. Its use, taxes are based on use regardless of zoning.
So when you say the taxing entities, you're talking about Sequoia School, you're talking about Northeast Tech?
Anybody that receives ad valorem dollars.
So they're advocating on their behalf?
Yes, they're working directly with those entities to say, how can we establish, do you want to approve this project or present this project to the council for consideration?
Thank you.
Everyone that came up today, I'm a citizen of Claremore. Been in Claremore almost 30 years. Raised my 3 kids here. I go to church here, and I went to RSU, go Hillcats. Wanted to let you know that all of you, a lot of people said we don't care. I care about every single one of the community here tonight, and my constituents in Ward 3. Your concerns I took to heart personally, and that's why I asked the questions that you posed. And I just want you to know that I listened, and I will make the right choice for the city and for my constituents. And each and every one of you I do care about, and I took it personally.
And just to answer my own question, of course, we didn't come on to here because we don't care. So we take our role very seriously. I feel like I know John has a huge responsibility running the city. And I think if you guys would show up to meetings and be consistently participating and seeing what's going on, you would be very shocked at how much is actually accomplished within the city and how much you and I have been blessed by the things that have happened here. So I think for the most part, all of us have a heart to do the right thing and to serve you guys as well as we can. So thank you for your prayers, and please keep praying for us.
Does anybody else have a comment or a question? Wow.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in second. Call roll.
Bellman.
Yes.
Lindsay make the second?
I'm so nauseous,
You
I want
did?
to throw up.
Okay. Michael?
I didn't use all.
Calendar?
If
Long?
it just came to my house, I would have fed you.
Long?
I can't hear.
Bruckerhoff?
Yes.
Bowlby?
Yes.
McFadden? Irwin?
Yes.
So nauseous, I just want to throw up. I didn't eat.